farmer's here today with Leo, and he's going to kind of tell us about what he grows and how he grows it.
Well, we have at the moment somewhere around 15 to 18 varieties of peaches. It's over 15. We also have apples and pear apples and apricots and pears. And I think that pretty well covers the... Oh, and plums. I just planted plums this year for the first time. The plums are more suited to this desert climate because they can handle the higher alkalinity of the soil here in the desert, which is very important to have plants that will adapt to this soil without a lot of problems. Because if not, you've got to add gypsum, which has calcium and sulfur in it, in order to get a balance where plants will thrive if they can't take the high alkalinity. And the only way around that is to use plenty of compost, hopefully organic compost, if you can find it. And you can, but in limited quantities. You got to be careful where you get it. And the big thing we do on planting is to, well, I've already spread my compost and manure on the open fields where we're going to plant in the coming year. And on the trees, we'll hand feed the young trees with manure compost on the surface of the ground, so Mother Nature will gradually break down anything that isn't broken down, and the irrigation will carry it down to the plant or tree's roots. We'll start seed in the greenhouse for the first planting of tomatoes probably January 15th or 20th of the coming year. And then we'll make probably 3 or 4 tomato plantings, one early in March, roughly in March 10th or 15th, or in that area depending on the weather. Another one late May around the 1st of June, another one around the end of June or the first week of July, somewhere in that area. And then we make a late planting of cherry tomatoes and early ripening, fast ripening I should say, varieties, and those will ripen right just before the frost.
So you kind of got tomatoes all year round?
We won't have them all year round because we're finishing today, so we finish about a week or two after Thanksgiving, but we won't start tomatoes until approximately 1st of July, give or take a little bit depending on the weather. No later than the 10th of July, and sometimes they start in June. In fact, I picked some cherry tomatoes the 28th day of May this year.
Wow.
We got them in fairly early. And the interesting thing about that was after I put on the sulfur and the calcium through the irrigation water in a liquid form, we actually picked the same tomatoes the first week of November. We sold the last of them last week off those same vines, if you can imagine such a thing. All summer long they bore. But it was a very unusual thing. I don't know if I could ever repeat that performance again, let's just put it that way. And what else do we have out there? Oh, the cantaloupes and the tomatoes and the tree fruit are the big items. The cantaloupes, the little variety is called Sugar Cube, and they generally they never get as big as this pumpkin here.
They're smaller than that?
Huh?
They're smaller than that?
Oh yeah. In fact, they're 1 to 3 pounds. I have seen some 4-pounders, but that's unusual. And what it is, it's an individual melon because most of them, since they're 1 pound to 2 pounds, a person can eat the whole thing in one sitting.
Wow.
You don't have to put it in the fridge and let it get stale, see?
Yeah.
And so they've been selling like hotcakes. Plus, it's easy to grow, and you don't have to spray it because it's got some disease resistance in it, in the breeding of the plant, or the seed, I should say. And the taste is marvelous. And people are still asking for them. Of course, they've been gone a few weeks now, but they're still asking for the darn things. I've actually picked one year, 2 or 3 years back, on November 14th, and put them in the refrigerator. Picked them a little on the green side just before they got fully ripe, and ate the last one the last week of January.
Wow.
So they even keep good in the refrigerator after the harvest, you see. So it's a wonderful little thing. And this is probably one of the best and the nicest, prettiest pie pumpkins that's ever been grown. It's excellent for taste. It's got a French name I can't pronounce. It's called Cinderella over here. That's easy to remember.
Yeah. So these are for making the pie filling?
Well, they're excellent for pies or cooking or whatever. I mean, they make some of the finest pies. In fact, the pie men down here use them 2 years in a row, and this year, our first planting, we didn't have the calcium on it, the plants died. This vine is very touchy for the lift that it needs from the calcium. So after a certain point, the vines die, and some of the pumpkins were about this size, and the vine's just gone, just like that. This is a late planting we put in, and it seems to be all right. I'm not a pie maker, but I should try to make a pie just for the heck of it. They seem to be not quite fully mature. They should be more reddish, I think, when they're fully mature. So they could have a little bit more water in them than what they should have, more moisture. That's what I'm trying to say. They're not as dry as they ought to be. But I love the pumpkin, and the public, once they buy them, they love them. This one here, this little variety, is an excellent pie pumpkin, but it doesn't have quite the sweetness as this does.
Is that one?
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
No
this
problem.
Is awesome.
I encourage everybody to plant a garden. I think not only for their own benefit, for their health, but for the good feeling that they get out of growing their own stuff. I mean, something that they do it right, it's going to be closer to nutrition than anything they can buy. And it's good for them, it's good for the country, it's good for everybody. So encourage it all the way you can. We encourage all, and in fact I gave them some okra seed this year to some of the customers who wanted, because it's open pollinated and they can just plant it anywhere, you know. And what else did they? Oh, asparagus plants last year, no, this past spring. I'm sorry, I'm thinking in the new year already. In 12, I sold the plants for just what they cost me, and I bought them in large amounts. So the customers that got them, they come back and report how good they're growing, and I'm just tickled to death. Somebody says, "Well, it's cutting your business down." I said, "No, it's increasing our business because it's helping everybody live longer, and they're going to eat more stuff longer."
Agreed. Agreed. Awesome.